Welcome into episode 9 of Ramie and Drew, two Milwaukee-based comedians talking sports and whatever else might come to mind. I'm Ramie. That's Drew. Oh, shit. That says episode 8. Hold on one second. I'm going to fix that live on the air. Hold on one sec. I'm fixing our little banner for those who are listening on Spotify and Drew, and not just on Spotify. Apple Podcasts, baby. Our IT department. That's me. Finally figured it out, and we got ourselves up there on Apple Podcasts in addition to Spotify and the old YouTubes. So now we're like everywhere. Is that everywhere people listen to podcasts, Drew? You're more a podcast guy than I am. That's everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly do YouTube or Spotify.
All right. I know there's Google Podcasts. Do I have to figure out how the fuck to get us on Google Podcasts?
No, I think you need to figure out who the fuck has a Google phone. I think that's easier. Is that not easy?
Yeah, I think so. And just stop talking to him, right? Like green bubble people don't deserve our attention. They don't deserve our time or attention. And by the way,
dude, we've paid attention to the Swifties, we've paid attention to the Packer fans. Let's not start calling people inferior now because they got green bubbles, okay? We can't green bubble shade.
There's literally a green bubble person right downstairs for me right now.
You live with her? Is that why you don't tell her to take Ozzy out? Is that why she doesn't take the dog out? Because you can't pull her phone open to see if you're typing "let the fucking dog out."
No, she was in bed last night. That's why we had to end the podcast so I could take the dog out. She was in bed. She was asleep. She had an early morning today.
Does her green bubble phone have an alarm clock on it, or do you have to?
I don't know.
Does it have like one of those like glass screen foldy dipshitty phones where it
no
it opens the doors and hears all the people that don't
want
to got a bubble phone?
No, it's much older than that. Not only is it a green bubble phone, it's an old green bubble phone. Like she will not let go of the thing, dude. She refuses to let go of the thing.
Was it like her grandma's or something? Like
no,
was that like the something borrowed? Like what the hell is that?
You can ask her.
I got saved last night by maybe being on like a flip phone or something. I think we got to have a discussion about your girlfriend.
I am glad to see that you actually set up for the podcast tonight. You didn't just like squeeze it into your day on your way home from the bar like you did yesterday.
No, but I did tell my girlfriend we had to wrap it up. I made her eat her burger on the way home in the car. I was like, I got a podcast to do, honey. Out here.
Things take precedence. Certain things take precedence on the Ramie and Drew show.
Hey,
now on Apple Podcasts.
When we were at the bar, there was a guy, like there were two dudes sitting next to us, and they were like older guys, like they're probably like late 40s or something. And this guy was, I heard him being like, no, you can just pick the players. Like, it's like, you think that Mahomes is going to have over 280 yards. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing daily fantasy? I literally started a group chat with Gary and then another guy that works at one of the accounts that I have. And like, it's called the Betting War Room. And we're discussing parlays every day. I busted bad last night, so I'm out for the rest of the week, but I'll give my insights.
I am going to get in on some daily fantasy for the Super Bowl. I feel like that just it ups the ante when you're watching the big game between two teams who you really don't give a fuck about. I don't have any rooting interest or any dog in that fight, so I might as well like buy a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? Or a few dogs in the fight.
Who rescued you? Who?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I got a coexist bumper sticker made up of Underdog and Prize Picks and FanDuel.
I don't know if I can find this. I don't know if I'll be able to find this on any of the daily fantasy sites, or if you have to actually go to gambling sites. I love, and we could do a whole episode on this if you want, Drew, when we get close to it. And by the way, Eric Wheelo from Up in Adams, Milwaukee comedian, he'll be joining us on Friday to look ahead to the Super Bowl. But the weird prop bets in the Super Bowl, I doubt it. Like the length of the national anthem. How many times will they show Taylor Swift? What color will the Gatorade be when they dump it on the winning head coach? Like all that stupid shit. I love those types of prop bets for the
That's
Super
not
Bowl.
on Daily Fantasy. This is
No, I can't.
for adults. This is for people who care about the players.
But you know what? I think I'm going to my brother's house to watch the game. So I will be in Illinois, where everything is legal now. That you can do anything. You can do anything in Illinois. You can murder people. But so we can.
They do.
We can so I think I could lay a few of those bets once I cross the border, can't I? Like, isn't it geo-located?
I think it's a Bart thing. I mean, he would definitely be able to let you know more on that. But I like to look at my phone every now and then in a bar that I'm at by myself and go, God damn you, Colin Sexton. That's what I like about betting. I like have Padawan learner braids. I'm like, his points, rebounds, assists seem reasonable, and then he gets 12. I thought Utah was good for a month.
Why are you betting again, man? You pick the worst people to bet on. Like, just go with a more reliable horse. You know what I mean? One way or the other. Go with a more reliable horse to bet on.
Bet the under on steals on Trae Young every time.
There you go. Exactly. And by the way, you brought up Colin Sexton, and that brings us to the subject of tonight's Ramie and Drew show. And I believe you brought this guy's name up last night when we touched on this subject a little bit, and that's trade deadline targets for the Milwaukee Bucks. We're like a week away, February 8th, and as we sit here today, it is January 30th. So a little over a week away from the trade deadline. And you brought up Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. I was about to say Jordan Collins. Jordan Clarkson from the Jazz yesterday. I think those are both guys that the Bucks could use and add to the rotation. They would fill some needs.
So when we start talking about trades, obviously you got to look at what assets do we have to give up? Do the contracts work?
That's the thing. Yep.
And so it's like, the reason I bring up Colin Sexton, which that is way out there, like it's not going to happen. Utah, I don't think is going to entertain that. We were looking at Colin Sexton as a backup point guard when we still had Drew Holiday. Like we were going to move, like there was rumors of moving like Grayson, but then like I think Utah drafted Grayson, didn't they? And I think
I think so.
And George Hill back, like because it would have been like a George Hill thing at a certain point. This was like going way back before we made any of our trades last year, like for Jay Crowder and stuff. So like Colin Sexton was always tied to us. Jordan Clarkson's always a guy who's somebody who can like create his own shot inside the arc. He's become a little bit more of a 3-point shooter, but he's he's like the closest thing to a Jamal Crawford you're going to get as a sixth man, because like you brought up last night, the bench is the problem.
Yeah.
So we got to, but like, what I was telling a couple people today when I was just kind of putting feelers out there for this topic and just names, I was like, with the assets we have, where it's Bobby Portis has the most tradable contract, and then you got Pat Connaughton, Cameron Payne, probably Marjan, if you got to throw in a player that's already on the roster. You're going to get a guy who's going to be really good at one thing and lack in everything else. Yeah. So that's bring up somebody like, okay, well, do we think we need to shore up our defensive line? Do we have like on the front line? Do we have to protect the rim? Do we have to get rebounds? Well, then Andre Drummond would be a pretty good trade target if you think rebounding is the problem, but you're not going to get the scoring that Bobby Portis brings you. You know, it's like, so you have that high risk, high reward of maybe Bobby's going to score a lot. So like Drummond is going to be a pure rebounder and he'll put the ball back maybe for 4 to 5 points a game.
And I think Drummond is being underused in Chicago because they have a big man. So there are only so many minutes to go around there. And I don't know how much he'd be used in Milwaukee, Drew, because I think he would be behind, obviously, Giannis and Brooke and probably Bobby in terms of that 4 and 5 rotation. So he would probably still be underused here, but I do think that he fills a gap. And if there's something, because we talked about the DeJounte Murray the possibility of a DeJounte Murray trade yesterday and Bobby having to go in that. If you were to make a move like that and make another move to go and get Andre Drummond to sort of fill, because you're too small if you trade Bobby Portis and don't get a big somewhere else, whether it's Capella coming back from Atlanta with DeJounte Murray in that deal, or it's going and making another deal for like an Andre Drummond type. You do have to look at this roster, and you're looking at where you need to fill some holes and address some deficiencies. But at the same time, you don't want to create more holes and more deficiencies in the process and just sort of play this whack-a-mole game where you're solving problems and creating problems all at the same time.
Right. And like, so, I mean, and when we talk about trading Bobby Portis, I don't want to trade him unless you have to, and you're getting something you need in return. I don't want Bucks to make a move, but unfortunately, Bobby Portis is the guy that is going to he's going to net you the best return. It was between his contract being tradable at like $11 million. And then you're going to add another guy in there. I think that if you made a deal with Atlanta, you're not getting Capella and DeJounte Murray. I think you're getting one, and Capella's going to another team. Because we don't have the draft assets to just pull off a team-to-team trade. We got to get crafty, where you got to send a Pat Connaughton over to like Portland and go get 2 of their second-round draft picks for 10 years from now, and you got to go send those guys to Atlanta or something like that. And they're going to go get a guy, and they're going to waive them or something, and then there's going to be all sorts of goofy kind of stuff like that. Like I said, the guy that I always dream of us picking up is Derrick Rose. I know he's getting older, and every year this becomes a more stale argument. But as far as a reliable backup point guard, Derrick Rose is kind of like my dream get on the Bucks for a backup, especially to Dame Lillard. Like Derrick Rose is awesome. That'd be cool. Memphis is in the toilet, and then you'd also have him for another year. So that would be a thing where it's like if you're going to have Derrick Rose for a year and a half, you're going to end up giving up probably MarJon somewhere.
And that gives you that offensive punch off the bench that they really just don't have right now. Drew, I don't know what I didn't see what the differential was yesterday, but in the first half of last night's game, Denver's bench absolutely destroyed the Bucks bench, and they bounced back a little bit in the second half. But in the Indiana games, where Indiana has dominated the series, I think they won 4 out of 5 of the matchups, and it's been 2 things every time. It's been Dame Lillard. He seems to be struggling against Indiana when they face them for whatever reason, and then the bench is just getting run off the court against Indiana, and you'll see that against other teams too that are a little bit deeper and can run 7-8 guys at you that can do some damage.
Well, and that used to be our strength, was the depth of our teams when we had Coach Bud, and then he would shrink that bench in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to have a guy who's willing, like Doc Rivers hopefully would be willing to, if we add depth, to use that depth. If you're going to go get a perimeter defender, like if you're going to go get a PJ Tucker on the buyout market, because it would be foolish for John Horst, and he won't do this because he's not stupid. He's a magician. If he went out there, you wouldn't trade to the Clippers to panic get PJ Tucker.
Right.
Not going to do that. But you can get him on the buyout market because he's tied to Washington. Washington is really looking at trading some players. And they're going to go get PJ Tucker. He's not going to be anything that's going to sell jerseys. He's not going to sell tickets. And he's not going to make the Washington Wizards any better. They'll waive him. And you can go get him for the veteran minimum because that's basically all you can sign on the buyout market. So if you went small and got DeJounte Murray, which seems like to be our number 1 trade target, you get Murray, then you're going to go get buyout guys. If you go get like a Drummond or something like that, which his name hasn't been leaked. That's just my brain playing with how do we get guys that make our best 5 better? And that's, I don't care if you're scoring out there for a little bit, just get the goddamn rebounds at a certain point. Like if every night you're going to go out there and you're going to get 8 rebounds, I'm fine with that. Just go do that. But this Bobby Portis thing where he might not score any points and he might get you 3 rebounds, or he's going to get you a double-double. He's going to score 20 points and get you 13 rebounds. I don't know. He's going to
Bobby needs Bobby, and people just, and you've said this before, Drew. People just throw out the inconsistent label and don't really have anything to. It's just something to throw out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Bobby has been a roller coaster this year, man. And there was a stretch of about 10, 12 games where he looked like sixth man of the year again in December. And then that's been sandwiched by just absolutely brutal stretches for Bobby Portis. I said yesterday on the live stream after the Nuggets game, that game right there was like Bobby's season in a nutshell in terms of the up and down nature of it, the roller coaster nature of it. I don't want to trade Bobby Portis, man, but they need some consistency from Bobby Portis at the same time that we've seen from him as a sixth man of the year candidate for this team in previous years.
Yeah. This year, I mean, I brought up in the midseason grades that this is statistically kind of his worst year, especially with us, same as Pat Connaughton. And now you got two guys having their worst years for us, making kind of the middle amount of our payroll. If you could flip either of them, like I've seen Cameron Payne and Pat Connaughton exclusively in trades to like just go get something. Like I said, we're not going to fix the bench. The bench isn't going to be the best bench in the world if you start dealing any of these guys because they do have sides. I think Cameron Payne's probably the most like bang for your buck with what we have right now because we're not expecting a lot and he doesn't do a lot of shit that's bad. Pat Connaughton, his defense, awful. Bobby Portis can't keep guys in front of him. And then Bobby Portis can't score most nights now.
Yeah.
But Bobby's the guy that gets everybody fired up. Like, everyone loves him. He's a culture guy, and I do think that is valuable.
That matters, yeah.
But
that's a big part of the reason why I would welcome PJ Tucker back. I don't know how much is left. I don't know how much is left in the tank ball-wise, but clip that one. I don't know how much is left in the tank ball-wise, but I think from a culture and leadership and emotional standpoint, I think PJ Tucker add something to this team, and we saw that. We saw that in 2021.
PJ Tucker would be a good culture guy to bring in and stuff. And plus, he played for Doc already. That's a thing that now it almost makes more sense to try to bring back a guy that he's going to slot in with Giannis and Chris and everything. And then also he slots in with the coach that didn't coach these guys, and he can kind of be more of a bridge guy. It seems like the players so far are receptive of what Doc has said to them. Doc said that they're all coachable. When I watched the Doc Rivers introduction
press conference,
that whole thing, the introduction press conference, and then his post game last night. I like a lot of what Doc says. There are times where I'm like, all right, you're kind of full of shit. You weren't consulting on this team. I don't believe you.
I don't believe that.
I believe he thinks that these players are coachable. So there is a little bit of like here and there. I'm like, I'm willing to take a certain line of bullshit from Doc Rivers and be like, yeah. Like I get what you're saying out here. Like
you're gonna get bullshit from any coach.
Yeah.
You got to be able to like sift through the bullshit and get what's real. I loved what he said last night after the game. That one of the things he told them before the game was whoever told you that you guys can't play defense was lying to you. That's a great message to send to this basketball team that you are not what it says you are on paper right now defensively, because Drew, they don't have to be. And I know you sacrificed a lot of defense when you traded a Drew Holiday, but you still got, and especially up front with Giannis and Brook Lopez, you still got some guys on this roster that can play some defense, and they should be better than what we've seen to this point in the season.
Yeah, well, no, and Doc said that after the game, not before the game.
Really? Okay, all right.
Yeah, he said that after because Doc said they went out and competed, and I agree. Like I thought their defense looked fine. Like
I agree.
I wouldn't call it great, but again, I gave Malik Beasley an F, and last night I was really impressed based on my low standard of what his defense is supposed to be. I'm like, oh, okay, so we were really setting a low expectation after the first half of the season for what he is. No, it's like he was just out of position in a dumb scheme that just didn't fit him. So whatever, they were fine. I will say this about going back to the Bobby Portis issue, because it's an issue now. And you said inconsistency. I've always said Chris Middleton, when people call him inconsistent, I'm like, is he inconsistent or inefficient? Because those are the two problems. Like I always bring up inefficient because everybody's going to miss shots. Everybody's going to take shots here and there. It's like, are you taking good shots? And last night, Dame and Chris just weren't given good looks.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Portis last night, and I said this in our group chat with all of our comedian friends, Bobby Portis right now looks like fucking Carmelo Anthony to me. That ball goes into his hands and it is never coming out. Every roster sprint to the other end of the fucking court because he's either going to brick this ball, he's going to airball it, or he's going to make it and the ball's coming back the other way. Bobby is never passing that ball out. I don't care if you're fucking Dame Lillard. I don't care if you're Steph Curry. I don't care if you're if you're Ray Allen, Reggie Miller. It doesn't matter who you are out there because Bobby Portis isn't passing it to you. He is the bad shot express right now. He hasn't seen a floater or a sky hook or a back down, put your ass into somebody's shot that he hasn't liked.
And even when help is coming, like even when he's got the ball on the baseline and help is coming, he's still taking the shot. Like, man, somebody is open. Somebody's open and you're surrounded by shooters. Get rid of the ball.
It's like, yeah, as soon as he engages, it's just his ass pops out and he starts backing guys down. He starts doing his little chicken dance like it's a goddamn wedding. And then you see like Dame Lillard or somebody, they're just rotating around the perimeter and Bobby's not even looking at, he's got the biggest fucking eyes in the NBA. Per square inch of head, right. He has the most eyes out of every player in the NBA.
All right. There's no need to insult the man's appearance. That's unnecessary. That's completely unnecessary. I mean, yeah, it's true, but it's unnecessary. We know it. You don't have to point it out. You mentioned real quick.
It's frustrating. I know I got problems with how I look too.
Yeah. And people have pointed that out in the comments. You mentioned D Rose was at the top of your list. A couple guys at the top of my list. I think we mentioned one of them yesterday, and that's Bruce Brown. I think he's at the top of most people's list. He addresses like a couple of different, because he's a swing guy. You can bring him off the bench to relieve a guard. You can bring him off the bench to get like a small forward off the court. He can do a lot. He's going to play some defense. He'll hit some threes. Like Bruce Brown, I think that to me is number one on the list. And then a guy who we haven't really talked about is Alex Caruso from the Bulls, who appears to maybe be on the trading block.
Yeah. So both of them are perimeter defenders, which is what a lot of people want. The problem with Bruce Brown is what Toronto wants in return, and they want a first-round pick. That we just don't have it. So again, this is get creative. This is wheeling and dealing Johnny out here. Like, I mean, he's got to figure out something.
Drew, I want 1,000 followers on the YouTube page for Ramie and Drew. It's not happening today. It will get there eventually, but it's not happening today. They can want a first-round pick for Bruce Brown all they want. They ain't getting a first-round pick for Bruce Brown.
No, and that's why I think that Horst is going to wait till the deadline, because if you start going now and start making these deals now, I think you're going to overpay for something. But Bruce Brown isn't a player that helps the Toronto Raptors crawl into anything. And again, just like I said, moving PJ Tucker to Washington doesn't sell jerseys. Bruce Brown doesn't sell shirts or jerseys either. You know,
that's basically more on that
paper.
What'd you say?
That's basically a trade on paper. It's like Drew Holiday going to Portland, and then he never even has to put the jersey on.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting shipped off somewhere else, but he's had to actually play a couple games because Indiana is making a lot of moves, not for this year. I don't think Indiana thinks that they're making a deep run in the playoffs this year.
Oh, I think they might. I don't think that they might make a deep run. I think they might make a deep run.
I think they're playing with house money right now. I think they're very much in a Green Bay Packers situation where they're like, as far as we get is as far as we get, and we're happy with that. I think every move Indiana made is great for the next couple years, because I think that they're starting to solidify what they want to do. And then it's showing Tyrese Halliburton that they're committed to making this team work. So you got Tyrese Halliburton, who's a starting all-star. I don't agree with that. I think he's kind of a bitch, but that's fine. You know, that's me being from West Dallas. He's from Oshkosh.
Oh, Wisconsin's very own. Why do we got a name call?
Yeah, because he was dancing around like LeBron winning a bubble title. Like, he beat the man, and you're hanging a fucking banner. And also, it's like, dude, like, I get it. Like, you're pumped. You hate Wisconsin. You're like, oh, I never was a Bucks fan. But also, your nose turns red when you get excited, like you're either whiskey drunk or cold. Fuck off, Albert. Okay, like, I don't need this.
Okay.
My nose is red right now, and it's because I've been talking.
Yeah, why is your nose so red? What is going on? Is your apartment cold? What's going on over there? Your condo? I'm sorry, not an apartment. It's a condo. Is it cold over there? What's going on?
No, I just had Tully at the bar. My girlfriend wanted to play bar dice. It was a thing.
Right, fair enough. And then
shouts out to Bill, our new subscriber.
Hey Bill. And a couple more like wild card names is Malcolm Brogdon and Andrew Wiggins. I've heard them kicked around the trade market. Again, not necessarily. I did hear some Wiggins to the Bucks chatter, some very light chatter. I haven't heard Brogdon's name connected to the Bucks, at least this offseason. It seems like Bucks fans have been trying to get him back since they traded him. But those are two guys that on paper I think could help you, but I don't. First of all, Brogdon just not reliable. He's too injured too often. And then Andrew Wiggins, you just don't know when that guy's going to want to, play basketball.
Did you watch the double overtime game against the Lakers on Saturday?
No, I don't believe I did.
Wiggins had every chance to win them that game. Like, but besides Steph just being what Steph is and being one of the greatest shooters of all time, Andrew Wiggins would hit clutch free throws and he would hit a clutch jump shot, but he would also biff 4 layups in a row. Like, he looked like Drew Holiday in the playoffs. Like, he was just missing easy layups and bunnies. And like, it just seemed like the focus wasn't there. And then honestly, it's kind of sad because Steph Curry's body language when they ended up losing that game by 1, he was just a man who looked like, yeah, this empire's done, man. Like, this is it. We're in the dying days of this one. Like, it's just, you lost to the Lakers and they're kind of pathetic and hurt. And Anthony Davis got hurt in that game and he's not playing tonight. So no parlays, but there's just, I just like Wiggins. I don't know. Like, he's managed to stay in the league this long because he's been under the cover of the great Golden State Warriors.
No, there was a minute there. Now, when I was in Minnesota at the same time he was in Minnesota, Drew, and what I heard was great dude. Like, there's nobody who meets Andrew Wiggins and doesn't like him. Like, very personable and funny and likable and everything. But he just didn't love basketball. You know what I mean? Like, he was just born. He was just really good at it, and all the success he had leading up to his professional career was basically from just showing up to the gym and being better than everybody. Like, some people are just blessed like that. And then when he got to the NBA, and it was like, who's going to work hardest? Who cares the most? Who wants to win the most? Like, he was lacking in that department, and he went to Golden State. And for a minute, it looked like they tapped into all the potential and unlocked, the dog in him. And we saw him be like a potential 6th man of the year candidate. He was a defensive player of the year type of player on that side of the court. But as soon as things sort of started going south in Golden State, it looks like the Minnesota version of that guy comes out more often than the Golden State version these days.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I definitely don't want around the Bucks. Because Giannis is obviously the guy. I do think Dame, despite what, one of the people that hopped on last night said that they think that Dame doesn't want to be here. I don't buy that yet.
I don't think so.
Dame is he's a hard read. I mean, because he's so even keel. Like I said, I listen to his rap. He sounds bored doing his rap. Like, he seems bored. He's kind of a cool guy who's just always the same dude every time. I'll bet you he's never raised his voice to his kids. Like, that he's just a cool guy all the time. Like, it's whatever. Nothing seems to phase him too much. He never gets too high or too low on anything. Chris Middleton is also kind of that guy on our team where he's very much the steady hand on the team. Not counting the turnovers, but like, he is absolutely just like every night shows up to do his thing. But like, I wouldn't say that none of those guys work hard. Brook Lopez works hard. Brook Lopez seems like he cares the most sometimes out there. Yeah. Between him and Giannis, I don't need a bench player. I don't need a fucking shooting guard coming off the bench that's just kind of there thinking that he's going to outskill everybody when we're serious. Like, the Golden State Warriors are not contenders for a championship. We're supposed to be. And I don't need to make a trade for somebody. I don't want to give up a Bobby Portis who cares so much. Like his heart is never in question.
Right. No, I don't think you make that trade unless you're pretty sure that, like the Warriors did when they first traded for him, that you can unlock him again. You know what I mean? And tap into that type of player, that type of competitor consistently. Because when they did, he was a big piece of them going back and winning another championship.
Yeah, and I would rather have a Bobby Portis who he might shove somebody in the playoffs and get a technical, but it also might get the Fiserv Forum into it.
True.
Andrew Wiggins isn't doing that. Andrew Wiggins isn't getting in a scrap. Andrew Wiggins isn't mouthing off to people. Andrew Wiggins isn't getting the crowd fired up when he hits a three. He's going to go about his business. He's going to be, a good enough player. But, like, that's even the thing with Dame being the coolest guy out on the court. When he hits a shot, he fucking knows it. He feels it. And he points at his wrist and just stone face. You think that he doesn't consider just smiling ear to ear when he does something like that? But it's like, nah, he keeps his face exactly the way it always is. Like, he's the only player in NBA 2K they've only had to use one face for like 15 years. Like, had to do anything with him. He's like, oh yeah, he's just the same guy.
By the way, he's going back to defend his crown at the 3-point contest All-Star Weekend. You see that?
Oh, he is going back to do it?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
I'm so excited about. I'm trying to roll my eyes. I'm so excited about Steph Curry against the WNBA player, because that is just going to be a propaganda fest of that one. Like, oh, she hung with him if she loses, and if she beats him, women are better than men. Let them play in the NBA. And then Giannis is going to truck a chick. They're going to have all sorts of new charge rules where if your knee goes above your waist or something like that. Zero step anymore or something.
I've seen the way some of these women shoot in the WNBA, and I think they might be able to shoot with some NBA players. It's when you get into the physical stuff in the paint, as you just mentioned, like a Giannis.
Oh, where you got to be 5? Oh, the physical shit, like where Chris Middleton's a center.
Hey, we can't talk. Short guys can't talk, all right?
They destroy me. That's not what the question is. The question is, do you bring in a goon? Do you get a Zaza Pachulia?
This isn't the first step in letting women play in the NBA. There's a WNBA for a reason.
That's Drew. About the coaches. I have no the final 5 for the Milwaukee Bucks before Doc Rivers was, okay?
All right, one more thing. No, we don't got
to do that kind of stuff. That's I'm just kidding. It's a fun bit. We're just joking. Actually, this is
easy Clay Travis. We don't need that bullshit on this show.
I don't need that devil. Before we do Embiid hurt again, LOL.
Okay.
LOL.
Oh, do you want me to add an LOL to that? Hold on.
That sounds worse than anything we said about Caitlin Clark. No, the name that somebody said to me, they're like, "Oh man, I don't know what the trade deadline." And this, you sit down if you're standing, Ramie. Just really sit down for this one.
I'm sitting down. You can't tell I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down.
It's called showmanship. There was this guy that I work with who the name that he said, he's like, oh man, my dream player at the trade deadline, if we could get him to come off the bench, I'd get Tyler Hero. And I burst out laughing in his face when he said Tyler Hero.
Where's this guy from? Where's he from?
Pick and save. There's a guy at a grocery store just talking to himself. He's like, I want Tyler Hero. It was. You think Pat Riley, after all we did, Pat Riley thought for an entire offseason by putting shit out into the media that they were getting Damian Lillard, and then the Bucks swoop in at the 11th hour. They steal Damian Lillard for less than what Pat Riley was about to give up for him. And then we go, hey, remember that Dame Lillard trade package? You want Pat Connaughton for Tyler Hero straight up? Never mind the money, Pat. You'll foot the bill. We know. We've all seen Winning Time. I was like, you honestly said Tyler Hero. That was I was like, not even Duncan Robinson. Like, you didn't even entertain.
He jumped right past Duncan Robinson.
We went to, you know who would be a great sixth man for this team? The starting shooting guard for the Miami Heat. The guy who's the most reliable scorer.
You know who, if they can't get Tyler Hero, Drew, you know who I'd like to see him go after is Jalen Brunson. No, Jalen Brunson. Yeah, I want to come off the bench. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Honestly, everybody in Wisconsin loves Tyrese Halliburton. Why don't we try to get nobody in Wisconsin has an unkind word to say about Tyrese Halliburton.
All right, now let's quick get to the Joel Embiid thing. He sat out the two games, and people thought the first one against Denver was him ducking Jokic and the Nuggets because he hasn't played there since 2018 or whatever. And so then they sat him out a second night just to be like, see, he really is hurt. He did need that rest because the NBA was about to investigate and bring down the hammer on them with these new load management rules. But you said, and I didn't see it, Drew, you were watching before we came on here, that he left their game tonight with the same injury that's kept him out the last two. Is it a knee? Are they saying it's a knee?
Yeah, it looked like it was like a knee sprain or something like that, or like knee soreness. He was walking to the locker room with his shorts pulled up a little bit, so he had the compression thing on, and then he had an ice pack around his knee, and he was limping back to the thing. But the process seems to be going through it right now. Joel Embiid can only miss 6. He has to miss less than 6 games to be eligible for any postseason awards.
6 more, right? 6 more games.
6.
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
It's not 6 total, 6 more in addition to what he's already missed, right?
Yeah, 6 more.
Okay.
He's missed and sat out and ducked.
Okay, yeah.
This is a problem for the 76ers, first of all, because now it's like, is durability a problem? Second of all, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be the Milwaukee homer here, and I'm going to go, that was a paper MVP last year. I don't think he deserved it last year. I think Jokic deserved a 3rd MVP in a row. And then I think Giannis was right there behind him because Giannis put up historic numbers last year. The narrative of all these guys going, but do you want to live in a time when Joel Embiid didn't win an MVP? Was he the MVP? Okay, make me why these other guys weren't the MVP and why Joel Embiid was. And now I go to this whole shit where it's like, okay, you didn't play against Jokic or whatever. Fine. You didn't play against him. You know, you haven't had to play the Bucks, so you haven't gone head to head against Giannis since the first game of the season, which you got outplayed on. You haven't had to go against anybody, but then you dropped 70 points on the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama, who's honestly, in my opinion, not rookie of the year. I think it should be Chet Holmgren. He's not on a minutes restriction. He's playing longer minutes. He's playing at a higher level in higher leverage games because OKC was are they still number 1 in the West, or they were up there until they lost to Detroit? But he's playing in more meaningful games, and he's putting up numbers that are just below what Wemby is. And Wemby's
I haven't looked at it too closely, but I think from what I've seen that there's a strong case to be made for Chet. I don't think it's a given or a runaway for Wembanyama at this point.
But Embiid dropped 70 points on a G League team, basically. Wemby is a unicorn. You know, he's a freak. He's going to be awesome. But Embiid went up against a guy who wasn't going to play more than 22 minutes in a game that ultimately they've punted this entire season.
Yeah, and a guy who like has 40 pounds to put on before Embiid or anybody else starts beating their chest about what they were able to. And he's a very good defender already, but Joel Embiid or a Giannis and these guys that are just massive they should be able to back him down and bully him a little bit at this level. Like the dude is a string bean at this point.
Yeah, and that's what Giannis was when he came into the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like, again, I'm blown away by what Giannis has been able to do to his body and become what he is.
It's very similar to what I've done to my body. Very, very similar. Yeah.
But like Wemby could definitely gain some muscle and weight as he gets a little bit older. I don't know what these guys, these sports scientists and these nutritionists and stuff, they're magicians too. But like this shit with Embiid where it's like he'll go and just absolutely fuck up a bad team and then he ducks the Nuggets and then he gets hurt playing,
But here's the thing. And this is why, and I get what they're doing with this new rule about MVPs and postseason awards and all that. But this is exactly why I don't like it. There's a couple of reasons why I don't like it. Unless a guy is like, look, I get why a lot of people aren't fans of Joel Embiid. Like, and he knows he brings a lot of it on himself. He trolls, and he knows that he trolls, and he plays the bad guy. And I for one love that because I think you need good bad guys for good storytelling. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that he's willing to play that role. But unless a guy is like Deshaun Watson bad, you know what I mean? I personally don't like rooting for injuries. I cackled when Deshaun Watson got hurt. That's that, and I feel like that's justified. I don't like rooting for. I don't like taking joy in injuries or rooting for injuries from other teams unless it's a guy who's like on that level of heinous. The second reason why I don't like these rules, Drew, is because let's say Giannis and Tyrese Halliburton, who was putting together. Now, I don't think he was going to put together an MVP season, but he's for like a quarter of the season, maybe 30 games, he was putting up MVP type numbers. He was as good as anybody in the Eastern Conference in a lot of things. He's coming up on that threshold of missing too many games to win an MVP. Let's say guys are just dropping like flies and they all miss that threshold and Giannis wins the MVP. What's going to be the line on Giannis? Oh, he didn't really win it. Embiid was hurt. Halliburton was hurt. Blah, blah. Because we already know they're always looking for a reason to take shit away from the Bucks, to take shit away from Giannis. If not for Kevin Durant's shoe, if not for whatever the fuck, if Kyrie Irving doesn't get hurt for the millionth time, then the Bucks aren't champions. You know that's going to be the narrative. That's going to be the storyline if these guys are not in the MVP race because of injuries and they're not just losing it to Giannis because he's the better player.
But also flip it. Okay, everybody gets hurt. Giannis gets hurt. Jokic gets hurt. Luka gets hurt. You know, Devin Booker, the way he's played recently, Devin Booker gets hurt. Sit here, take them away, and then Embiid wins the MVP. Do they say shit about Embiid being like, oh, he only won it? No, they're going to dick ride him for that one. They absolutely will. And it's fine because they love Embiid. He's in Philly. That's, you know, East Coast kind of bias stuff. You know, they want Embiid to be the guy. But here's the thing. Last year when Embiid was ducking smoke, because he was, and he didn't play up, he doesn't play in Denver because the altitude makes his knee, I don't know, his knee starts questioning things about itself. I don't fucking know what goes on in his brain and that's inside his knee. I don't know what Embiid has going on with him. But
his brain inside his knee?
But they stat pad. It's garbage time, basically. His stats so much, these 70-point games, 60 points, 50 points that Embiid puts up, it's against bad teams. He's not doing this against the Celtics. He's not doing this against the Bucks. And he's not doing this against Denver. He does this shit against Charlotte, which these are teams you should beat. And he's doing this shit against, like, even he's not putting up these numbers against fucking Miami. And Bam Adebayo isn't that great either. He's not doing this against playoff teams. He's inflating his numbers again. And this is, I think this is the organization because the 76ers GM and their owner, those guys are maniacs. And so last year I'm like, oh, is Doc sitting him? No. Is Embiid sitting himself? I don't know. But I think that there is something in that office that's going, yeah, you're going to sit tonight. Because how many times does Giannis have to go up against here, you know, I'll even walk it back. Not even how many times does Giannis go up against a former MVP? And if he gets outplayed, he gets outplayed. How many times is Giannis willing to get put on a poster by somebody else, by a rookie that just dunks on Giannis? Mm-hmm. Giannis doesn't have that pride level to him where he will go out there and is like, I know he doesn't like to lose, but I also know that he goes out there and he competes every night. And I don't think Embiid does that.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Somebody posterized Giannis last year, and they asked him, why did you go in there? Because he came in late and still went in for the dunk. And he said because I'm not scared of getting put on a poster. Like that's he said a lot of my best blocks could have had me end up on a poster easily. And you do have to sort of have that mentality that if you're going to go in there and try to embarrass somebody, that there's a chance that you might get embarrassed, and you're just going to have to be willing to accept that and pick your head up and move on to the next play.
And Embiid doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. And it's like there's the goofy shit. Like there's that game against the Bulls earlier this year where instead of taking a pull-up jump shot on a smaller defender just at the free throw line, he decided to dolphin dive like it was Call of Duty and he was firing a machine gun in the air. He decided to dolphin dive and throw the ball underhand up at the ceiling and go, why didn't I get fouled? It's like, because you just did a circus move. Like that wasn't a basketball move.
Yeah, but I mean, all in all, I'd rather see Giannis win the MVP against a healthy Embiid, a healthy Jokic, and whoever else is thrown at him.
If this was NBA 2K and I could absolutely turn off injury, I would. I don't want any players to get hurt, but I also don't want these phantom injuries holding players out.
Agreed.
Even remember, this is what happened at the end of the year for Portland when they held out Damian Lillard and they told him, you're hurt.
Yep.
And they held him out because they were trying to trade him.
Speaking of Portland and Damian Lillard, he will make his homecoming tomorrow when the Bucks take on the Blazers. And Drew, we will be live with episode 10 of Ramie and Drew. As soon as that game is over, we will be on Twitter at Ramie is tweeting. We will be on YouTube at Ramie and Drew. And then, Drew, we're going to add a third platform, Facebook or Instagram. What do you think? What do we go with? We get 3 platforms that we're allowed to stream to at one time, Instagram or Facebook.
Damn. Instagram's for all the young people, but I feel like people, they don't have good relationships with their parents, so they don't watch I think young people, Madeline, young people like Mr. Beast, right? My girlfriend's asleep.
I like that you're just yelling across the house while your girlfriend is asleep.
She's you're
the worst.
I figured she knows about Mr. Beast.
I think we'll try Facebook tomorrow, and then maybe Instagram the next time.
We can alternate this because Instagram, that seems like where all the hip people are at, but like Facebook seems where like all the family people are at, you know.
And maybe TikTok. Maybe eventually we'll get to the TikToks.
All right. See. We gotta scrub the first 8 episodes of this show because I've said.
Yeah, I mean, it's all out there. It's all out there, Drew. It's on to the clips are on TikTok. They're on Insta. They're everywhere that they can be put. And now the show is pretty much everywhere that you can listen to it. YouTube, Spotify, and as of today, Apple Podcasts is where you can find Ramie and Drew. I'm Ramie Makloff at Ramie is tweeting. He's Drew Flaggy at Drew F is on fire is how you can follow us. And again, we'll be live tomorrow after Bucks and Blazers with episode 10. Drew, I will talk to you then, sir.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough game for me to watch, honestly.
Why is that?
Because I've always liked the Portland Trail Blazers.
Oh, fuck the Blazers. I got allegiances to the Kings and the Wolves from my previous stops in my radio career. But when it's time for Giannis to dunk on somebody's face, it's time for Giannis to dunk on somebody's face.
Hey, I loved him beating Damian Lillard when he was over there, but also like, as much as I love Dame coming here, it also hurt my heart that he had to leave Portland.
Anthony Edwards is one of my favorite players in this league, but if we have to go through Anthony Edwards, then you have to go through Anthony Edwards. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, if we trade for Anthony Edwards in a couple years to make Giannis
to come off the bench
with Tyler Hero, yeah.
Right, exactly. All right, dude. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.